This is Lou Hansen, Senior Editor and co-founder of the Virginia Center for Investigative Journalism at WHRO. In a time of political turmoil, it's easy to overlook the people who work to exercise and support our core American values. Democracy at Work is an election season series from VCIJ at WHRO. People share their stories about how they uphold the core ideals of American democracy: free and fair elections, the defense of the country, ensuring clean air and water, the right to participate in government deliberations, and exercise First Amendment rights. This weekly series brings these compelling stories to light.
Well, I'll call to order this meeting of the Virginia State Board of Elections this morning on January 4th, 2018. We're here today to conduct a drawing to determine the winner of the House of Delegates 94th District. And this election will certainly be a reminder for everybody that every vote counts, as we encourage all eligible.
I was firmly ensconced in my house. It was winter break and I was a teacher, so I was happy to be at home. My name is Ken Mallory. I'm 40 years old. I work for Virginia Tech. I'm the director of what we call our Citizen Leader Track program in the Virginia Tech Corps of Cadets. I chose to become an election official in the fall of 2008. The registrar of Newport News at the time put out a call in the daily press that Newport News was anticipating record high turnout. And it was great. You're there at 5 a.m., you don't leave until 8 or 9 at night, but I had a blast.
A surprise historic ruling in a tight race in Hampton Roads, and the 94th District could decide who controls the House in Virginia.
For years, the House of Delegates had kind of swung one way or the other, Republican or Democrat, just depending on a few key races. And it seemed like that year was one of the key races was going to be the 94th District, which encompasses Newport News. The 94th, which at the time was being represented by Republican David Yancey, was being closely challenged by Shelley Simons. We had no idea how close it was ultimately going to end up being. The losing candidate, who in this case was Shelley Simons, I think it was 13 votes if my memory serves me correctly, which was well within the percentage that allowed her to request a recount. The registrar calls me and said, hey, would you like to be one of the recount officials? I had no idea how the process works, so I said, count me in. You don't actually look at every single ballot that was cast. The machine counts it. Well, there are some ballots that the machine doesn't know what to do with. Those types of ballots were the ballots that we as recount officials were to look at and engage with. There was one important one. I was like, hey, mark next to the Republican name here, I think this is a Republican ballot. My counterpart said, no, you can't say that because he didn't actually fill in the ballot. We don't know what this voter's intent was. Ultimately, I was persuaded by his argument, and so it went into the unreadable pile. Got to the end of the day, the electoral board goes behind a curtain for a little bit, comes back out and said, all right, we've got an announcement. The electoral board reported that it had been a 14-vote swing and that Shelley Simons had won by 1 vote. My thought immediately flashed back to that one ballot that we'd argued about. It should have gone in the third pile. It was not for us to decide. I was able to make it home for dinner. It's the week that the family gets together. Everyone wants to know how it went. And I'm like, but there was this one ballot. And the more I talked about it, the more bothered I kind of got. And so I was like, while my memory's fresh, I should really write this down in case someone has any questions. I was in the process of typing when my phone rings. Hello, I'm the legal representation for the Yancey campaign, and I'd like to ask you some questions about today. Once I got the okay to actually talk to the attorney, it was actually kind of relief. The attorney started asking questions, and they very quickly drilled down to that one ballot. And he was like, hey, would you mind writing up a statement? Sure, no problem. And he was like, great. When can I get it from you? I pulled in at about 7 o'clock to work that morning, and he meets me at my school. The election recount was due to be certified that day in circuit court. The judges decided that yes, they were going to open the letter. The electoral board, when questioned by the court, said yes, we're confident we can find that one ballot. The judges decided to look at it and decided to count that ballot's vote, which in that case was a vote for David Yancey.
There sat the stoneware bowl in the middle of the table with the Board of Elections, and Yancey's name was placed in a tube, and Democrat Shelley Simons' name was placed in another tube. Well, both tubes were then placed in the bowl. The winning tube was drawn, and inside was David Yancey's name.
I gave the institution enough information for our process to be able to work. We accept in this society that sometimes the choice of the people is not necessarily your choice, but The choice of the people is a fair choice. And when I was a poll worker, that's something that I always strove for.
For VCIJ at WHRO, I'm Lou Hansen.